and girls. Morning, boys and girls. It's James here with your children's talk. Today we're thinking about what happened after Jesus had died and risen again from the dead. We are told in the Bible that he sent his disciples to a place called Galilee. This was an area of Israel in the north. And he sent them to a mountaintop, probably a bit bigger than the one we can see behind us, but it was a very high place. When they reached the top of the mountain, they saw Jesus there, and they worshipped him. But some of them doubted, and Jesus blessed them and told them that they had work to do. They were to go into all the nations of the world, baptizing them and making them disciples. And then Jesus, we're told, went from them. He rose, he ascended up into the sky to be with his Father in heaven. The disciples weren't to be left alone though. Jesus had promised that the Holy Spirit was going to come, and they were to wait in the city of Jerusalem until he came. And when he did come, he would clothe them with power and authority. So what is the Holy Spirit like? Well, he is invisible and mysterious. And in the Bible, he's likened to the wind. Jesus says, "You know not where the wind goes or where it comes from." And so it is with the Holy Spirit. The wind is invisible, but we can see its effect. It's keeping the kite flying. So too is the Holy Spirit invisible, but we see his effect in the hearts and lives of God's people. You see, with the Holy Spirit being like the wind, he cannot be held, and he makes his own decisions. The Holy Spirit is God. We are told that the disciples went back to Jerusalem on the day of Pentecost, and whilst they were inside a house, there was suddenly the sound of a mighty rushing wind. And something else happened. There was a second sign of the Holy Spirit's presence. We're told that tongues of fire appeared above the disciples' heads, and they were filled with the Holy Spirit. This was a sign of his presence, that they began to speak lots of different languages. And the people in Jerusalem couldn't believe their ears, because they were hearing the disciples speak in a language that they understood, their own language. And they said, "They must be drunk." And the disciples said, "We're not drunk. It's 9 o'clock in the morning." No, this was the power of God. So here we have some different languages. I'm sure you know this one. Hello. That's English. Here's hello in another language. Bonjour. Which language is that? French. Oh, okay. Guten Tag. German. Hola. That's Portuguese. And finally, Bună, which is Romanian. And speaking in all these other languages, they began to preach that Jesus, whom they had crucified, had died for their sins, and that by trusting in him, they could have complete forgiveness. And on that day, 3,000 people became Christians. Do you know, the Holy Spirit was working on that day, the day of Pentecost, and he's still at work today. The question is, are you going to let him work in your life?